Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 24 of Outlaw Star. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, Jean was very concerned with getting a variety of specialty caster shells, which can only be made by, I believe he called them wizards, who just so happened to reside on a special hot spring planet. And, the process of which involved peeping in on a coworker for want of a better term, when you get down to it. So, between mucking around in all these hot springs and trying to get caster shells and avoiding a would-be assassin, Jean had a pretty busy and a not very relaxing day when otherwise it might have been. It seems like everyone else got to have a good time, whereas Jean suffered climbing a mountain over and over again, only to suffer its booby traps, Now armed with all those caster shells, Jean and crew are finally nominally prepared to explore the galactic ley line in earnest. So, it's kind of unfortunate, but it really is inevitable that we have to get away from the serious business of legally mandated hot springs episodes, and we must now get on to the monkey business of the actual plot. The cold open in the beginning sort of outlines the stakes to some degree, in that, you have the crew of the Outlaw Star, you have the McDougalls and Gwen Con, and then you have the pirates. And, the pirates also have their assassins too. So really, you sort of have three competing factions. More to the point, it's not really clear what exactly will be held at the galactic ley line. Even at this point, Jean's sort of saying, boy, I hope we get some good treasure. And when you get down to it, one should sincerely hope that's the case, considering all the time and effort and expense that has been expended on this whole... Well, not even a prospect, like an outing, maybe. That's probably even too complex a term for it, because really, the galactic ley line's been sort of an overarching goal, but, the impression I get is that it was kind of almost like a pipe dream initially, and only recently has it become more of a realistic sort of thing. Even then, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy to get there or even straightforward necessarily. So it seems like everyone's really just ready to start doing this. I do find it interesting that Melfina doesn't seem to be showing much trepidation, considering how she is seemingly intrinsically tied in with all this stuff, Oh dear. So that's something. We're finally seeing Harry for the first time after his little accident. Yeah, that guy's not doing too great. He doesn't look like he's doing all that well. Now, I do recall him sort of hectoring Melfina, saying that, like, hey, you and I are the same, therefore, you should want to spend time with me and all that. And his rationale was that he was like a test tube baby or something, but, given how he seemingly by necessity has to spend a lot of time in a fluid-filled tube, his argument gains a little bit more weight for similarity to Melfina. I mean, Melfina can get out of the tank, but that may well not be the case with Harry there. Something tells me all those added bits of machinery just sort of grafted onto his body, like, that stuff's probably kind of there by necessity. And I don't know, like, I guess it's good where, like, you can repair your body by mechanical means if need be, but given the choice, I hate to go there again, but, like, I'm rather fond of my flesh and blood, I'd like to keep it. Now, it's pretty clear at this point that the Outlaw Star and the El Dorado are both headed towards the ley line, but now, the pirates are getting up to business here, and it seems as though they've got, like, an entire fleet amassed, which, I don't know, that makes things a wee bit more complicated, I reckon, because surely the pirates, they don't like the Outlaw Star and its crew. Obviously, there's antipathy there. But I feel like if it comes down to the wire, so to speak, the pirates probably aren't gonna like the El Dorado either, I get the feeling that they're really only interested in what they can get for themselves, and that if anyone gets in their way, they're probably unwilling to let that go. And more to the point, I feel like, as evidenced by the pirates already sort of infighting here, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they started killing one another if it came down to it. If someone got to the ley line first to get its riches or its power or what have you, I wouldn't be surprised if the knives started coming out and there was a little bit of friendly fire. Yeah, so already it seems like there's a bit of double crossing going on here, or at least being planned. The idea is that, like, hey, that messenger won't be returning to his masters, so, by the time anything becomes really suspicious, I'll have already attained the secrets of the ley line. Now this is something. The Outlaw Star seems to be approaching, I don't know if you would call it a black hole or what, but, like, they're pinging it with their scanners and it's not returning anything. Which, sort of indicates to me a black hole, but I guess you never really know. With stuff like the ley line, which seems to be like a quasi-fantastical thing, I feel like, the normal laws of physics kinda go out the window. So this is something, Suzuka's dispensing knowledge here that, like, yeah, we're gonna have to watch out for some serious headwind from these pirates. And it seems like Gene's only really putting two and two together here, that these pirates are sort of related to the assassins. Now, if I'm not mistaken, one of the assassins we've just seen now, he was on the hot spring planet. I feel like after his miserable performance, he should probably have been, like, put to death or something. Not that it's necessarily the right thing to do, but I feel like, if you're a big evil space pirate and you don't suffer fools lightly, that would be the natural outcome. Oh dear. So, things have gotten more complicated. The Catarl Empire has decided to show up in force, which, that doesn't bode well, really. By reputation, the Catarl are a bellicose people, but at least for the time being, they are more upset at the pirates. Whoa. That's a pretty hefty revelation that Aisha's like, oh yeah, I've been in constant contact with the Empire and I gave them the coordinates, so that's why they're here. I mean, I guess it's sort of not surprising, but like, man, that's a heavy thing to drop at the 11th hour. So I guess the nice thing is that the Qatar Empire is sort of nominally helping the Outlaw Star, at least for the time being. You know, they're sort of more focused on the pirates. Or at least, rather, they were more focused on the pirates. They're sort of, I guess, they've adjusted their eyes to the prize, and they're more interested in taking the treasure of the Leyland for themselves. You know, Aisha's kind of quick to declare victory here that, you know, the Empire has claimed the treasure, but seeing as how they sailed into that sort of, like, black star, like, I don't know, man. That's a weird space anomaly. I guess seeing as how the ship retreated and is now firing wildly, then, yeah, I don't know. It seems like whatever that anomaly is in space, like, it's doing something. Whether it's, like, purely, illusory or if it's, like, a sort of, like, a psychic attack or what, it's kind of not clear, but, you know, it's certainly affecting the Qatar ship rather heavily, you know, because, like, they don't strike me as being competent Navy-wise, you know, like, not being remarkably restrained officers, but to be shooting as wildly at seemingly everything that they had been, that seems like a breach of how they'd been acting before, so I wouldn't be surprised if this little space anomaly here is doing something to them mentally. I guess the question is, does the Outlaw Star have some sort of inbuilt protection against that, given that it was specifically designed for this sort of application? Or, you know, perhaps maybe Gene and company have the mental fortitude to stave off whatever might be going on. I suppose it is rather telling that once the McDougalls show up, you know, while they aren't immediately fighting the pirates, they're not exactly on good terms either. But it seems like they might be able to sort of quickly weld together a coalition given that they have a common enemy in the Outlaw Star. Okay, so that's interesting. You know, the ship seems to be nominally okay, albeit in pitch black darkness, and, you know, everyone was okay initially, but Aisha noticed at first, like, this rather harsh noise. You know, that's interesting. Like, I guess it's like a sonic attack, or perhaps a property of the anomaly that does this, but I guess I can understand why the Qatar would want to leave, especially considering their probably superior sense of hearing, you know? Alright, so that's something. You know, Melfina now seemingly understands on an instinctual level what's going on and how to handle it. And so by, like, adjusting the ship appropriately, they can sort of, you know, get rid of this sound and all that, and just sort of navigate through this anomaly. So, while that's all well and good, Melfina's sort of living up to her purpose, the unfortunate thing is that the McDougalls are sort of able to do the same. You know, Harry there, like, whatever his initial purpose was, he seems to have taken on a sort of similar purpose to Melfina now, and is able to do similar sorts of things. So interestingly enough, it seems like the pirates have kind of brute forced things with Tau magic to sort of essentially forge a path because, seemingly they don't have like anyone who could navigate the spiral, as Melfina put it, normally. So yeah, this is something. Like, they're following a spiral path towards the center of this little anomaly thing. The question is, what really prevents you from just sort of like jumping straight to the middle? Because like obviously there is the that horrible, terrifying sound you suffer, but I feel like if getting to the ley line first is the goal, and anyone's sufficiently motivated, then really they should just like set an autopilot and go full speed ahead. I mean, there may well be like another reason why it doesn't work, and why there might be adverse reactions, but you never know until you try. Ooh. Alright, so Gwen Khan is dispensing knowledge here. Melfina's not merely a bioandroid, she's something incredibly more complex than that. So that's interesting. I guess like the genetic data of Melfina sort of existed at that temple. So I don't know. I guess what's the deal with her then? Was she created by someone else previously and sort of stored there? Wow, if Melfina were to learn this, that would probably make everything worse, because like, it's one thing if you get like a definitive answer to who you are, why you exist, and what your purpose is, but if you learn that like, you were sort of made like 30,000 years ago and there is no real answer, then like, I don't know, man. It's a good or a bad thing, because on the one hand, the answer is there is no answer, and you can just sort of put it out of your mind. Or the answer is there is no answer, and thus everything becomes sad and meaningless. I mean, if I had to guess, I feel like Melfina would probably take the second option, not necessarily willfully, but I don't know, it's not good. So unfortunately for the Outlaw Star, it seems as though the pirates and their sort of intrusion into the spiral has caused it to collapse, preventing any additional progress towards the ley line. At least until they're dealt with, And the other interesting thing is that it really seems like everybody's concerned with the Outlaw Star. The pirates are more concerned with the Outlaw Star. The McDougalls are also more concerned with the Outlaw Star. But fortunately, Harry's just sort of general antipathies kind of giving the Outlaw Star an opportunity to get away. That is kind of fortunate that Harry would sort of impulsively shoot at the pirates, thereby giving Jean a chance to navigate away, but, man. It really seems to me that this is an incredibly poor place to have a dogfight, especially given that, you would suffer from that sound if you're not careful. So it seems like everyone has their own sort of conception of what the ley line is, and oddly enough, it's a cylinder, and I feel like that's something there's a name for, like a Dyson cylinder or something, or like oh, it's gonna bug me now. I think there's an idea for like cylindrical space colonies. Not necessarily that that's what this is, but like that's something I've heard is like a potential realistic way of having space colonies. You build a cylinder and the idea is that people sort of live on the inside surface of the cylinder, and that's sort of like a way to like maximize things and also generate artificial gravity and through centripetal motion and things like that. You know, sort of like a practical way to live in space and also live normally and not, you know, do the stuff astronauts do on the International Space Station. Now, it is interesting, however, that this cylindrical place is remarkably like normal planetary conditions. You know, it's got an atmosphere, it's got gravity, and it's got stairs of a human scale. So, like, really, it's pretty clear. You're going to have to get out of the ship and start walking. And while that's not great when the K-Pirates have assassins and Harry McDougal has a bizarre cybernetic body, you know, it's something that's just got to be done. So I guess the question is, are they going to find what they're looking for before they find the people who are looking for them? You know, unfortunately, it seems as though the whole place is kind of maze-like, so... Oh, yeah, that's rather bizarre that the landscape just sort of seemingly changes at will. You know, as if the maze-like quality of it wasn't bad enough. So I guess the question is, can Jean and the others find the secret of the ley line and secure it for themselves before finding anyone else they would conflict with? I guess worst of all, Melfina, like, she's kind of at a loss now, you know. She guided them here successfully, but, like, there's no more sort of instinctual knowledge to tap into. And, like, I get it. I get why she's frustrated, but I feel like the better thing to do is figure it out, you know? So on the one hand, the pirates have confronted Jean, but on the other hand, they're more interested in Melfina rather than immediately engaging in hostilities. I guess that's kinda nice, I suppose, in that it gives Jean and everyone else a chance, but I don't know, really it just sort of primes everything to become messy in short order. Alright, so unfortunately it seems like Melfina is being taken off the table. The ley line itself is acting up and sort of scooping her up and teleporting her away. For what purpose, you know, we don't really know. Because it seems like the ley line is in some way sentient or sapient. And Jean's being a little bit hasty in sort of interacting with the ley line. I mean, I don't know, man. If you're dealing with, like, disembodied consciousnesses, as is seemingly the case, you know, you would do well to be a little bit more polite. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.